So this is gonna be the first Kofi video. I know I promised this like months ago, but I'm gonna be trying to do these consistently for probably every Tuesday for a video on Kofi for all the subscribers. Currently, there's just one, but for all the subscribers, and I'll also try to do a monthly sketch thing. And it might change to sketch color depending on how busy my commissions are. So this tutorial will be for most of the tutorials will be for Blender. I still haven't figured out the streaming for Procreate on my tablet. So let's get this started. So usually when you open up Blender, it's just going to be the cube. So usually if you're like more of a pro, so probably not me, you probably make this into some sort of character, then rig it and jazz and stuff. But this, I'm just going to show you how, if you already have existing .blend files with already rigged Spartans or characters made for you by other artists, how you can pose them. It's like posing action figures and setting up scenes. It's not too difficult. So first thing we do, we're going to set this to blank. So select everything, so drag select and hit your delete key and it's gone forever. Alright, so we need to bring in a subject. So either you have, say you made a model, so we're going to import it. So we do up in the corner, see my mouse, other corner, select file. Actually, before I do that, let's do the movement. So I know I kind of mostly use the little, I don't even know what to call it. It's the ball thing. You got your Z, X, and Y axis. You can use this to go rotate around your objects or snap to different positions. And then you have the move hand. You can move, and then you can either zoom with the scroll wheel if I hope not you're not using a laptop. If you do, you have to use this, because why aren't you not using? If you're using a trackpad, you suck. But alright, so you can either do that, zoom, and this button switches to camera. This I don't really bother with this, so this is not really important, so just keep it like that. So don't have this ever switch to that. And then you have about over in the top right corner before you go to the collections, you have wireframe, what's this? The shading, and then like this is the texture shading one, and then you have the fully rendered thing. So it doesn't matter until we bring it into a model, so you won't tell what's going on. So let's bring in a model. So well, start that over. But so let's go to the left hand corner. So file, append. So append to import a model, and then you're going to go find your model. So I'm going to go bring in one of the new models I've gotten. I'll show off in this video is a Destiny character. Her name is Scarlet. Let me actually just go to my Destiny tab. Let's pull up Scarlet. So once you go into like this .blend file, you either have it like this or this. So you can either, I prefer switching so you can see what it is, because you might not remember what the item is. You might label your thing super stupidly. I do that a lot of times. So you go select, and then always go to collections. It's easiest to pull from there. And then you can either just hit A to select everything and bring that all in, or if you know, you can just if you have it very sorted, you can just bring a certain thing. So I'm going to make sure I don't bring in the other version of Scarlet in here. So let's bring her in. Depending how complex, it can make your PC cry, depending how much your computer sucks. So it just depends. So I'm going to move this model out of the way, so you can just like select the thing. So you can, when you select it, you either have these couple options. You got the move, so it moves on the axis, or you can grab this little circle thing and it moves like wherever your mouse goes. And also remember the hotkey for Control Z to undo. And you can either rotate, move her, size, and this is kind of like a bit of everything, but I kind of just prefer switching back and forth. So there's probably some later on people who used Blender like, man, why is he not using the hotkeys? I'm too lazy to learn all the hotkeys right now, so I'm just showing what I know. I've only used Blender since I got a computer in 2021, so still learning now, but I've gotten better over the years. Not as sloppy. So move that out of the way. All this is just a bunch of like hodgepodge from the rig. You don't want to delete this or it's going to mess up your rig because it's kind of like, I don't have a rigging video. I don't plan to make a rigging video because I don't know how to do that, but Google can explain what these are. But we don't really need these, so select all of these, only these, and then you just press H on your keyboard. You'll hide it all, so you don't have to deal with that. We don't want that. So as you can see, Scarlet's kind of a mess. So let's clean her up a little bit. Put your in-game armor on. So right here you can either hide different things and show. So I have different outfits for Scarlet. So it just makes it easier depending on what mood I want the scene in. So I'm going to use her in-game armor, which is what I use for in Destiny 2. And yes, I know how some people feel about Destiny 2 currently, but we're not going to talk about that here. So let's hide her helmet. I usually like to keep things sorted, and the awesome dude that made this model, Diego, or Catman on my Iron Angel server, Discord server, he goes by. He made this very beautiful model. So I'm gonna hide her. She has a couple of different hairstyles, but as I said before, these things are different different rendering. So you got the wireframe, so you only see what you see all the polygons she's made of, and then you have like the flat thing, and then let me just. Those are just different settings you put her on. Right here you can also hide everything, so it's like you can see what your render looks like without all the rigs in a way, without rendering it. Kind of the thing. Get your depth of field, have that selected, go back and forth, and let's go to the textures. Depending, again, how complex everything is. If you have a full scene and you're going straight into this, it can either make your thing cry or not. I'm actually going to pull up another tip right here. If I'm going to speaking a little bit too fast, switching back and forth between things, welcome to ADHD. So I'm going to go to, right now my computer's slowing, preferences. If you have, so in systems, if you have like a NVIDIA, so I have like a NVIDIA 3060, not to brag, but it's pretty beefy, but it lets me render things a lot faster. So if you do have like at least an NVIDIA GeForce, I don't know if it goes for all of them, but if you have an RTX, make sure this thing is selected, and if you have a AMD resin, make sure these are selected. It'll make your render go faster and just your whole experience better. So here we have Scarlet. So right now it's set to the EV engine, so it's kind of like not much is going to change. I typically do cycles, which is a lot of ray tracing stuff. It doesn't have as like the bloom auto bloom features, but I'll show you how to do that in cycles not right now, but once we get to the scene. So we got our model right here. Isn't she pretty? So not everyone's gonna have like a face modeled stuff. So either you're gonna have like, say, oh, I'm just gonna have a helmet, and I need to fix that. I'm going to hide her helmet because I haven't fixed the textures for that yet for this version. And I'm not going to... Actually, no. Let's do that now. So you see all these different tabs. You see layout, which is what we are in, what you're mostly going to be doing in if you have everything set up. But if you don't have everything set up like me, then you're going to be switching between different things. So we're going to go into the shading tab right here. See all these other ones: modeling, sculpting, UV editing, texture, painting, or animation, rendering, compositing, nobe, scripting. We're not going to use all those. The ones that you really mostly need to use are the layout, shading, animating if you're animating, compositing if you're compositing, and that's basically it. Just those three things. These are just extra things if you want to learn everything about Blender and get all fluent in the 3D world. So we're gonna go shading. Technically, you can customize your layout thing to show all these different tabs and all, but I'm a little too lazy and I'm just gonna use the default settings kind of thing. So people will probably laugh at me. So I'm gonna go in. I was in the process of fixing all her textures and stuff. It's a little hodgepodge. So we got all these nodes. If you already have shading set up, not really that great. I do basic nodes whenever I do things. So what we're basically gonna do is very easy. Copy, paste. And these are different shading materials things right here. You can just select it to activate it. So right now it's going to be all messed up right now because we don't have the right shaders, the right textures going over. So we're just going to delete, and we're going to copy V. And you're probably wondering, Jacob, why you're doing this right now. Well, these are two different shaders. Wait, I messed up right now. Two different shaders, technically. This is an older shader for the Destiny models, and for some reason, it works great in 4.0 of Blender. However, the newest version of the shaders, which is like, they try to get as close as game accurate. Honestly, for me, I don't understand why some people want to go 100% game accurate, especially if it's like an old game. Like, I would say, why don't you want to go better, go higher than game accurate? I don't see any point for that. They're just doing one-to-one to say you have a reach model, but you want to be one-to-one with the game, but that's a 360 game. Why don't you try to upgrade the shader system, higher res textures? So it's just mine, I think. So this is pretty easy. You're basically matching to the thing. So the fuse goes to the fuse. The G-stack textures go to G-stack, and then the alpha goes to G-stack alpha. So everything will be labeled for Destiny stuff. Usually for Halo stuff as well, but you don't really have to go through this process. See, there you go. Her helmet's all pretty now. And let me see, is it carbon? Yeah, carbon. So she's looking all great, all fly, and now basically she's all set up. So if you don't have a face model, you don't have to deal with this, but I'm actually going to show you the process of me doing faces and stuff. So let's bring her beautiful face back. So let's try setting up a scene. So excuse me. Let me see if everything's still recording. Yeah, everything's still recording. So we can either just do a simple pose thing. For right now, we're just gonna do simple pose thing and show off the model. So we're not gonna do anything too pizzazzy. So right now we're set to Eevee. So Eevee's gonna look like this when it's in the render version. But you can go to see this little camera. Make sure that's selected. You could go to Render Engine, select Cycles. First, it's going to be a little jotty because it's going to be using your CPU, so it can either make your computer cry if your CPU sucks. We want to have it selected to GPU, so it's going to run a lot better. So this is basically running what your games go off of, basically. So it's going to rendering in real time. Not as impressive, say like Unreal Engine, but rendering, because this is not a video game engine. This is an animation engine. So it gets a little pixely when you move around, but it'll instantly solidify if there's not really too intense. Where it will get intense is with all the lighting and stuff. So I have a few add-ons. I might, if you come to me in like Twitter and stuff, I can send you these add-ons. They're pretty simple. I say an add-on you should have at all times is the Blender kit. They're pretty simple to install. So like once you download it, you do not unzip the file. Okay. You basically go to Preferences, Add-ons, Install, find your thing, and then once you install it, it'll show up on here, be the only thing that will show up, and then you just checkbox it, and it'll either show on your side or it'll be a different thing. There's a bunch of different add-ons for everything that can make Blender a lot more simple. They have like add-ons for like say Fortnite importing, like super, like import a rig to change this, that, this. So let's go into my process of doing just a simple character render. I'm gonna do the like the ones I've done for my last recent commission. So I'm gonna go bring in that model. At least the backdrop. Don't question what it is. That was from old commission. But gonna bring in that world. So now we have that. It's basically like a photo shoot thing. So I'm gonna delete all the lights because I don't like using these light setups for here. I will try to make her at least either part of the ground. I don't like her feet phasing too much because I like the somewhat, but I like it not hovering, so she's like actually touching the ground naturally. So next thing you basically do, well I do for this type of thing, is I go into Add, Camera, and now you have a camera. And now this button will instantly snap you to your camera. I always find it easier, so when you move the camera is in your camera view, so you can get the best possible view of what you're seeing, what's going to be rendered. So whatever's in this like little outline right here, this where this orange is being highlighted, like all this inside this rectangle is going to be rendered right here. So the best way to move it, so see we're on the engine, go to this little object block, we can move it across the Z, the Y, or the X axis. So we're basically going to move it, get her fully in there. I tend to render stuff at least 4K quality, but I tend to up it a little bit, change the dimensions and stuff, the aspect ratio. So these are by pixels. So I don't want to. I could do it super high if I want this to take forever for the render, but this is this short video, and well, it's probably not short anymore. So I'm just gonna do right aspect ratio and then zoom in. I tend to do a little view up and then tilt it down. Not like that. Ignore that. Tilt it down a little bit, raise it, go forward. Just little adjustments. You can have it go to the right a little bit, add a little dynamicness, and then like that. So we kind of want to have what the lights are going to be showing. So you can go to, since you're in like the preview texture thing, you can go to here and you can select these things. You know, this is basically what Eevee is, the Eevee engine right here. And then you can switch to cycles. as well. We're going to bring in our lighting. You can either set up your lights manually by going to add and placing all your lights all fancy. But I did download on the Halo archive. Shout out to them. They're cool sometimes. I saved a pre-lighting thing. So we're just going to do append. Basically the same thing. I'm going to go find that file collection and bring in the lighting. Now we have the lighting. When I move this specifically, I want it to be at least have it lined up with the character. And then you can do a little bit of adjustment. So like when you go into the camera view and then you go to cycles, now she's all lit up properly, looking pretty good. But if you want to make it slightly less intensive for rendering, because since now we added lights in here, so it's going to be a little bit more intensive than before. So your computer is going to be sounding like a jet engine right now, or it's going to be like fine, like mine. So to lessen that pressure, we're going to go to the format right here, the output. We go into here, render region only, basically, and it's going to only render what's in the camera view, what's going to be rendered. So it makes it a whole lot easier. So we're going to go back to the regular thing. So we're going to get her into a kind of a simple pose. So we're going to select the rig. This is pretty much every rig is going to be different. So depending on the scenario, for this one we're going to be I forget what it's called. It's a IK rig, I think. Yeah. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to go up to the top left corner where it says object mode. We're going to go switch to pose mode. Now everything's going to look different depending on the rig as well when you go to pose mode, but now it's basically like posing an action figure. People that have used SFM, I never used it. It always gave me a headache looking at it, how ancient it looks. So when you select something, it's on the world axis. So this is pointing on the world where that's going, that's going. Let's go back to the camera. You can kind of change it up here where it says global. I always change, when I ever do posing, I do local. So it's wherever what the bone is posing. So you can always get the best look. So let's do a little hip sway. And might as well do the little funny. Yeah, always have fun in Blender. Mess with your models. It's always great. And just Control Z to undo that. So let's get her into a little feminine-ish pose. So it's fairly simple. Don't really need to use a whole lot. You gotta just make sure you're looking at it over and over, make sure everything's posed naturally. You can move the legs. Different rigs are what I said again, rigs are different for every model. Some of them you have to move from the hip bone to move the leg, and then move the knee, and then move the leg. This type of rig, if you move one thing, it moves the entire leg naturally. So we're going to move that a little bit, turn her leg a little bit. You can get a little bit more complicated. We'll try to do a little bit more unique things with, say, a Destiny model. You could try to, say, adding a cloth sim and making this all look all pretty and natural instead of what it is right now. Let's bring her down like that, making her look a little more natural. And let's do the classic hand on the hip. Pose. whenever you're posing, you gotta make sure you think of the thumb with the thumb placement. You gotta make it look like it's not clipping to everything. Best thing to make the renders look good, make sure things aren't clipping, especially if they're in view. It'll make the whole thing look nicer. So then we're gonna bring a little pose. These things right here, they control where the elbow is, so kind of position, make it look a little nicer, more natural. Make sure the pose is how dynamic it is. It's also how well it's gonna look like when in the render. Of course. So do what you need to do to make everything look cool and pretty for your character. For this model, she's a little bit different. She has two different rigs, one for her head and one for her armor and body. Mostly because her head's just been kit bashed onto the body itself. So if you want to, so you don't be switching back and forth between rigs, you can just select one and then shift select and then go into pose mode, and then you can move both of them normally. Oh, great. I should always be more prepared with this, but it's on rest mode. There we go. Oh, well, I really hope that's not their issue. I don't need to report that to Diego. Oh, no, it's just a pose. Alright. Just go into the pose process, make sure everything looks pretty. So, let's go into the fingers, everyone's favorite thing to pose. Well, depending if you're a smut-based artist or not. But, this rig is a bit different, so, as I've been saying, you can either pose from, like, this right here, like, normal, or you can, it's basically kind of like the legs and the arms. You can move this one thing and it moves the whole thing naturally. It just helps simplify things. Depending on what you're doing, it could be easier to use both or switch back, and it just depends. It's for like say rendering something, just like a simple like pose thing. It doesn't really matter. I think, unless you want to get something very specific, then you can use like the other bones and stuff. Gotta just make sure it looks natural because we don't want our fingers looking weird and hectic. Again, don't let things clip because clipping things don't look good. So this one, I want to do this a little bit more natural. So we're going to go Tools, Properties, and just set this to a non-IFK. So now we can pose it, have a little bit more manual control where everything is. So there we go. Looks very pretty. And always switch back so you can see the posement for the hand. Make sure that they're natural. We always want things looking natural, not awkward. At least how I want it. Unless you're doing like a shit post or anything, but you do you. I'm gonna do simple ball fist. So I think it's easier to do it with, at least if your rig has these type of finger controls, it's a lot nicer to do. And I just messed up the finger right there. That doesn't look natural at all. And then right there, go and do small adjustments every now and then. And you can also, like, as this is in there, you can kind of adjust it at the base. Help it make it look a bit more natural. There we go. And then bring that down. There we go. She's looking great. Looking fly. Now let's go into the face. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to go into the face. This is also an add-on. So I'm going to go set all these to 0. Even though this is a really good face pose, I might use it later. So now she's just a blank canvas. Well, besides this right here. So let's adjust the eyes right here. And I'm just going to do a simple posing. So these are all just different sliders you can use to help her make it look great. So make her look angry, surprised, whatever. Or my favorite thing to do, wait, expressions. Cursed. Gotta love them cursed. The cursedness right there. So, if you send me a model with a face from Diego, don't be surprised if I mess around with it like this. I won't tell you if I mess around with it, but I probably am messing around with it. So let's get a little pre-flirtiness in there. Let's bring one eyebrow down. Let's squeeze her brows a little bit. And let's show those beautiful teeth. So whenever if you're doing it some of these cycles, it might be look slightly a bit different. So it's always good to switch back and forth. Let's go. do a little adjustments. And there we go. Basically, all done here. Before we go into rendering, you don't want to just do this and have this also be rendered in the background. Always switch the wireframe depending on, even if you have a lower computer, because if you have that this on as you render, it's going to make your computer cry and it'll double your time. So let's go to render. So render is going to be right here. We're going to render this image, or if you're doing animation, render animation. We're not going to do animation today, so we're going to do render image. So now, see, it says like it's going to take an hour, but it's going to jump down a little bit as it goes down. And hopefully, cross your fingers that I had everything selected, so it's not going to be, nothing's going to be like invisible head or visible hands when it's rendering. So, hopefully, if it's right, shouldn't take too long. But I'm probably not going to keep you guys too much longer. I'll post the final product when it's done. Or if it actually jumps down. Let me check the... Since it's a little thing, I'm going to stop the rendering. So, right now, since it's just like a special, just a simple tutorial, I'm going to cut down the render time by shrinking the resolution. And my computer is probably crying. Always remember to save your programs if it's a big project. If it's something like this, it doesn't really matter. So there you go. Just shrunk down the render right there. And it should be going a lot faster. So now, see, you get to see more of her. And it shrunk down our render time a lot, since the resolution's not as high as it was before. But since we're dealing with a face model, it's gonna be a little bit, but not as horrible. And I probably won't edit this video down, mostly because I want you guys to see my slip-ups and everything. So it always makes it great when you see someone mess up and it's like, oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, that or this or that. But hopefully it doesn't take. Oh, yeah. See, as the render goes, continues, it just the render time up here is just jumping down. But come on, a bit faster. Now it's down to 10 minutes. So the render is going very well. Depending on how it is, it could be either long, instant. If it's on the EV engine, it can actually be instant, depending on how good your computer is again. So, now it's down to 8 minutes. now 4 minutes. See? As it goes down, it's going to skyrocket down depending how amazing your computer is. And now we're at 3 minutes. It goes further and further down. And it's probably going to be done in the next couple seconds. And I forgot her hair. See, this is why you need to always check what's rendering. So, and this is why, hey, at least you get to see Bald Scarlet. Let's go in and actually fix that. So, let's figure it out. That's hiding. Make sure, if you want it to show up in the render, see these little cameras, make sure they're selected. So you don't end up like me and having to start over the render because you forgot. But that's why I'm doing this somewhat live, is so you can see me mess up and then laugh. Because that's what the great thing. You get to always learn from our mistakes. I think Blender is pretty simple. It might look like a behemoth and super horrible compared to if you're used to SFM, but honestly, I think it's better. And it may look super annoying, complex, but if you're just doing simple character renders like this and not really doing any scenes, I think you don't really need anything to do all this. Sure, you might want to branch out and build some scenes, but there's always a community of people that would like, hey, I know people at the Halo Archive, and we have this map and that thing, and you can kit bash the different things together, make a beautiful scene. But then again, you just gotta make sure you reach out. People will help no matter what. If you DM me on Twitter, I'll try to. I might be great explaining in text, but I could probably explain it on Discord in voice chat. If you don't have a mic, I'll just yammer to you or something while you listen. You can just do text. But I also do want to try to attempt this, and I will show in a tutorial of me trying to attempt this, is doing like a 3D 2D combination of a render type of thing. But I will try to do that, and I think it will turn out hopefully pretty well. But then again, huh. Hmm. Anyway, let's hopefully. Oh, well, it's almost done. Hopefully, it doesn't mess anything else up. Since it's only a couple minute render, there's about 3 minutes of me basically yammering, and then oh, I forgot. So you could probably just skip the part before, but sorry. Depending on what you want to see, how I do things, especially just simple character pieces like this, I'm probably just repeating myself over and over. This is, as you can tell, 100% unscripted. I'm just talking out to my mind, trying to keep it entertaining. So, that render is almost done. We got 1 more minute, and then she's all good. She's looking all pretty right there. Out of my opinion, this is probably the best female model that Diego has made so far. It's very pretty. I don't make any of my face models, or I don't know how to model 100% yet. So if you see any of these face models and you're like, hey, Jacob, can you make this for me? It's like, I can't. Here's Diego, so I'll just push you towards him. So he can get some people because he needs some recognition. He's a great dude. He might take a little while, might get burnout, but great artist. Highly recommend. And now it's denoising. Depending if you haven't upgraded your graphics card, it could break and you'll have to start the render over again. But there you go, she's all done. Now that's done, we're starting compositing. You can either just end that hole there, and you don't want to get into that because compositing can either be complicated or butt ass simple. So we're going to go into the compositing tab. First, you see nothing. Always make sure you said use node. So now it's there. First thing you want to do, you want to control shift left click, and now you have the image here. And as you can notice, you can't use the scroll wheel, it'll only move the nodes right here. So another thing, let's just unclick the compositing. The way you want to resize this image so you can see it better, press V. Make sure you be careful because I do not remember how to zoom in with the V button. So we're going to bring in 2 nodes. Very simple. It's 2. Yeah, it's 2. So we're going to add, and we're going to look for, go to filter, glare. And also note, it will be different between different versions of Blender. So if you have the most updated version, it's going to be more like mine. If you have a previous version, like say 3.9 or 6, that tab's going to look a bit different. So we're just going to throw this on the thing, and then we see a little slight change, a little bit of glow. See a little sparks right there. I personally just do ghost fog, and adds a little, basically bloom. Set it to 9 to play around, making it look how you want. I know there's some other artists out there that kind of go overboard. I say make sure don't go overboard on compositing, because if you go overboard on compositing, it will ruin a great render. Because I've seen, mostly from one artist, I'm not going to mention his name, but it too much glare and bloom. It's like looking like an early game with extreme bloom. So now we add that. You can either add another one to, I'm not going to add another one. It can get really complex. So we're going to go to transform and lens distortion. Drop that in. And it's like, Jacob, that didn't do anything. So we have to play with these settings a little bit. So I usually set it to 2 or 10. 0.01 or 0.02, depending how much it is. So let's zoom out a little bit more. As you can tell, the edges are kind of like bending like your old TV. We want it to fit in on there. So now it's fitting. Adds a little glare. And make sure before you finish, because you're about to finish, reconnect this node back to the compositing thing, so it's back on there. So let's go back to our rendered view, rendered tab, so now we see the difference. It adds now you can see it can add an adjustment. So let's go back and set this to 1, lessen it a bit. So you kind of have to play around, see what you like. bit. But also remember, this is also slightly lower res. So now if you go down to here, it's slightly like a blur effect. Here, I could have gone in, added a more blur, like depth of field, but for this type of thing, it doesn't really matter. I'll do that for the next tutorial next week, if I remember to record next week. But this is the end of the tutorial, and we have it finished Scarlet render with rendering, posing, well, no, importing the model, posing, importing the lights, importing the scene, rendering, and then compositing, basically. Super easy. You don't even have to do compositing. You could just like straight up just render and post. That was what I used to do for the longest time, but then I googled how to do compositing. So I will try to post consistently, and hopefully this recording didn't mess up at all, because this is a long recording. And I will see you guys next time.